Mutton Chop Gaming. I'm the Mutton Chop Gamer, but before we begin today's episode, I'd like to apologize for the delay. For some reason, my normal video converter wouldn't convert the footage to something I can use in my video editor. I'm going to try to work with this problem for the future, but at least now we have videos done a week ahead of time, so we have a bit of buffer room just in case this problem happens again. Now, Halo! I was never really a fan. Don't get me wrong, I know this game is uber popular, and I understand why it was popular, but I just never really got into it. However, after marathoning the entire series of Red vs. Blue for the first time, I decided to give Halo its 7th chance, its last chance. So, with that said, let's take a look at Halo Combat Evolved. Let's begin with the narrative. The United Nations Space Command, or UNSC, has been at war with the Covenant, an alien alliance of religious zealots, for quite some time. To combat them, the UNSC would take children and teach them how to fight from a young age. The best of these children would become Spartans, such as John 1:17. And yes, I looked up John chapter 1 verse 17 in the Bible, but I don't see how it applies to the game. John 1:17 eventually became Master Chief, one of the greatest fighters in galactic history, who was put in cryosleep for some reason before the game starts. Eventually, the UNSC finds that the Covenant has sent an armada to a round object in space called Halo, and they decide to go in to find out what's up. Naturally, the Covenant didn't like this, so they attacked the Autumn, the ship sent to Halo. During the attack, Captain Keyes decides that Master Chief might want to wake up for this, and orders him to be awoken from cryosleep. Long story short, Cortana, an AI, is put into Master Chief's helmet so the Covenant can't get her. They have to abandon the ship, and those who survive take the lifeboats, that's what the game calls them, not me, I would have called them escape pods, and they land on Halo, which, as it turns out, is full of rich environments on the inside. Now Master Chief and Cortana have to explore Halo, fight the Covenant, help out the other UNSC soldiers, and find out what Halo's true purpose is. Their adventure will take them from lush green fields to snowy caverns to dark depths that nobody was meant to find. Like I said, I played Halo before, but the story actually gripped me this time, which was kind of surprising. See, I dropped out during the point where the game looked like it was going to be another military shooter, but in space! I realize that may make it sound awesome, but having to go rescue 3 groups of survivors as one of the first missions was just dumb. I know, it's a personal preference, but even though I do like stories that get deep and personal, I can't stand war stories. I like war documentaries, like they used to show on the History Channel before only showing aliens and Pawn Stars, but I just can't bring myself to like the war dramas. But back to the game. Something that I especially liked was the addition of the Sentinels, floating robots that want to kill anything trying to harm the Halo, and the Flood. Oh yes, the Flood makes the game go Dead Spacey, as it's an alien parasite that will turn the host into a monster bent on devouring anything in its path. It's odd though, because I thought Dead Space was a fairly original game when I played it, but now that I see this, it makes me think less of it. The shift from action to survival horror to action again is worth it though, and I'll get to that in the gameplay section. Overall, the narrative is decent, but I hate how Master Chief says,
"No. I think we're just getting started."
right after Cortana says it's finished. It's just bad writing. I don't care if the game is over 10 years old. Let's move on to the aesthetics. The visuals are very nice. Ignoring the graphical technology for detail, the color palette and design of the game are well-rounded, allowing for deep purples, brilliant greens, and vibrant blues. The environment designs are amazing, with the world feeling very organic and real in the different locations you go to. Then, of course, there are the character designs, where aliens all look fantastic. I can't exactly say that for the humans, though. Their faces dive ever so slightly into the uncanny valley. And why is it that the models only seem to lie on the ground in a few ways? Maybe Half-Life 2 spoiled me, but I wish they ragdollized instead. This could have been something that they put into the remake, but instead the designers have gone on record saying that they wanted this to work exactly the same as the original game. The vehicles also look really good, but that's not the best part of the visual aesthetics in my opinion. The weapons. Oh yes, the weapon designs. Yes, they carry over the colors of basic design, but they did so much more with them. Ignoring the dumb, boring human weapons. No, I don't mean you, shotgun. You know I love you, baby. The alien weapons are amazing. Not only do they look cool, but the visual effects of firing needles or blasts of plasma look so awesome! If I'm playing a space game, I want to fire lasers, not bullets, and this game delivered. Not only do they look good firing, but they sound great too! Every laser blast is paired with the visuals just right, so even though you're shooting light, it feels like there's some weight to it. The other sounds are great too, from the human voice actors, to the vehicle engines, to alien chatter. I especially love the aliens talking. I like how the larger aliens speak so deep that you can't understand them, but it's the grunts that I love the most. While I do wonder why they're the only aliens that bothered to learn how to speak English, they make up for that unanswered question with their high-pitched cries to their teammates when they're trying to kill me. Then, how they run away scared if I kill off their leaders. It just makes you feel so powerful to see those little guys running away from you. It's fun! Some might say they ruin the serious tone the game should have. I say, screw that. It's important for a video game to know when to be serious and when to have comic relief, and because you're in fights for a good chunk of the game, they help lighten the mood when you're once again in another freaking fight. Lastly, the music for the most part is forgettable. The only song I remember was the main title theme, which is a very good song, mind you, and it's used a couple times in the game, but the other music just isn't that memorable. Now, because I am playing the Anniversary Edition, I have the ability to switch between the modern graphics and the graphics from 2001. Honestly, while the aesthetic design helps keep the old version from aging too quickly, they are showing gray hairs and wrinkles. They also might be shopping for denture cream soon. See, even though Halo is organic and colorful, it spends a lot of time indoors. And maybe Half-Life spoiled me, but at least Black Mesa, even with lower graphical capabilities, looked interesting. I played the modern version for this critique simply because it's more engaging to look at than the flat surfaces found in the original. But now we move right along to the gameplay. Halo was the beginning of the modern shooter, but it still carries some elements from older shooters. Let's start with the basic health stuff. Yes, there are shields that regenerate, but you also have a health bar that will go down when you lose your shields, and your health doesn't regenerate. That's something I kind of like, because it makes it so that not only do the level designers not have to throw in health packs everywhere to accommodate low health, but it is also very reasonable, and the power used for the shields is used in story events, and that's pretty cool. Unlike other shooters, your jumps are used for more than going through obstacles. They can be used to strategically get better vantage points, and all your jumps feel like you're on the moon, which is something I really like, even if it's not exactly realistic. I just wish they were consistent about being unrealistic in terms of weapons. This game limits you down to only 2 weapons at a time, and I'm not a big fan of that. This means that instead of being able to wield as many weapons as you want, you have to pick up only 2 of the following. Pistol, assault rifle, shotgun, sniper rifle, rocket launcher, plasma pistol, needler, and plasma rifle. You can also get fragmentation grenades and plasma grenades, and while they aren't included in that 2-weapon limit, you can only hold 4 of them at a time. Yes, you will probably figure out what your favorites are by the end of the game, so you'll know what to look for, but do you realize how careful you have to be with your ammunition? Unless the weapon you're using is a common weapon, you need to be careful with every bullet, especially considering how many enemies they throw at you. Oh, and even though you have a max of 100 shots per alien weapon, you can't reload them, and they also need cooldown times. This basically means that the designers knew the players would go for the alien weapons, and decided that they needed to be nerfed to make us use the human weapons. There are also a number of vehicles in the game. There are turrets, which cannot move or look straight up, but you do get to shoot everything without cooldown, although they can be knocked over by larger enemies. There is also a Warthog. It's just a Jeep! That can hold 3 people, a driver, a person in shotgun who can shoot, and somebody in the back to use that turret. But the Warthog controls terribly. Seriously, it is almost impossible to steer this thing without sliding all over the place. There is the Ghost, a land-based alien vehicle that can fire plasma blasts, and lastly, there is the Banshee, a flying alien vehicle that fires plasma blasts. You'll quickly learn that not only do the alien vehicles control better, but you can shoot while driving. It's why if I have an alien vehicle, I'm going to try to keep it as long as I can, but then the designers force you to get rid of it because they're jerks. As for the enemies you actually shoot, they're nicely varied. There are aliens with a lot of armor, aliens with shields, and aliens that die if you so much as look at them. Then of course you have the Flood. There are smaller parasites that explode on you for a little damage, but they're bad in large groups. Then there are the bulbous ones that explode to bring out more small parasites. Then there are the ones that might lie down to play dead and then come back to kill you. These are aliens and humans alike that were infected and taken over. They still wield the knowledge of how to use firearms though, so at least you can loot weapons from their corpses. Lastly, there are the floating sentinels that shoot lasers and explode once you kill them. While I like the ideas of all these enemies, and I like how these three factions will not only try to kill you, but they will try to kill each other, I feel that not a whole lot of interesting stuff is done with them. Every fight begins to feel the same. Maybe a little more difficult depending on what enemies are placed in the group you meet, but they all have the same general strategy to kill them. Shoot them dead. Yes, some are more vulnerable to explosives, or plasma, or bullets, but considering that you can carry all three with grenades, one human weapon, and one alien weapon, there's nothing too thought-provoking about it. Once again, take Half-Life. The enemy AI changes so much that you have to change your tactics all the time. Although it can be fun to wait outside a room until you hear the gunfire stop when enemies are fighting each other. There is a problem in the misuse of the rule of three, though. At the start of the game and near the end of the game, you have to accomplish a certain task 3 times. However, the only things that change are the areas you have to go around in. The enemies are basically the same, and what you have to do is also the same thing. This isn't the rule of 3 because there's basically no variation, and this is not a boss fight. This is padding. And it was the first of these where I had to go find other survivors of the crash that turned me off from the game. Think about it. After you go through an awesome escape scene from a crashing spaceship, we need padding to bring it back down? Was this seriously how they meant to break up the shooting gameplay? With performing a task 3 times and shooting between every task? The shooting just got boring after a while. Take a game like Dante's Inferno. It had a ton of combat, and yet it was broken up by puzzles. Yeah, that's right, I just said Dante's Inferno did something better than Halo. Strangely though, this game has this hypnotic feel to it that almost makes me want to pick up the controller and play it again. And before you ask, no, I'm not going to talk about the multiplayer because there will always be problems with online multiplayer games. For example, the unstable internet connections of university housing. Instead, I'm going to end on talking about how the people at 343 Studios looked at making this game. I know why they did it. Bungie stopped making Halo games and Microsoft wanted 343 to start making them. As a result, they remade the first game to get the feel of how to make a good Halo game. However, they prided themselves on making everything feel the exact same, and I'm not sure I like that idea. They should have taken it as a time to improve upon things, like the controls of the Warthog or some of these visual glitches. Now, I get that this is a remastering and not a remake, and if you're going to just remaster a game, I guess that's fine. While I will say that this is better than the original version of Halo, I can't help but feel it was more for the designers to have a learning experience, rather than to deliver an amazing player experience. You know, this game has a lot of problems to it. I mean, I listed that huge list of problems earlier in this video, and yet it still has that hypnotic quality to it. It's not the masterpiece people claim it is, and it's certainly not even in my top 20 list. But at the same time, I find myself enjoying the game. I have to give it a B-. I would love to give it lower, but that's as low as I could possibly go for this game. Alright, that's it. I'll see you all next week. Hey, if you liked my video, then why not throw me a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And while you're commenting, suggest a game for me to critique sometime later.